Book of Heaven, Volume 24, Part 10. July 14th, 1928. How one who lives in the divine will forms her little seas within God himself. How the divine will is light, and it looks for light, and how all evils become lost before its light. Prodigy of the Fiat. I feel myself completely in the divine Fiat, and my adorable Jesus showed before my mind an interminable sea of light. And within this sea, one could see many other little seas, little rivers, formed in the same sea. It was beautiful, delightful, enchanting to see these little seas formed very often within the divine sea, some smaller, some a little larger. It seemed to me as when possibly we are in the sea, and as we dive into it, the water divides, and forming a circle around us, it gives us the place in order to be able to stay in the sea in such a way that one can see many people in it who are not seas, because the sea does not have the virtue of converting us into water, while our God has the virtue of converting us into his very light. And in spite of this, one can see that a human will has gone to dive into the divine sea, to take its place in it, and according to its much or little operating, it forms a small or a larger little sea within the divine sea. Now, while I was delighting in watching a scene so beautiful and enrapturing, my sweet Jesus told me, "My daughter, these little seas and rivers that you see in the eternal sea of the divine majesty are of those who operate in the divine will. The Creator gives and forms the place within his own sea for those who want to live in the Fiat. He admits them into his house and lets them form their own properties. And while forming their own, they enjoy all the goods of the interminable sea of the Supreme Being, who gives wide freedom to these children of his to expand their own little seas within his very sea as much as they can. In this sea, there are the little seas of my humanity, and those of the Sovereign Queen of Heaven. And there will also be those of the ones who will live in my will. None of their acts will be done outside of this divine sea, and this will be the greatest glory of God and the greatest honor for the children of my divine Fiat. After this, while being immersed more than ever in the divine volition, I was offering all my being and all my acts in it. Oh, how I wished that not even one thought, one word, one heartbeat would escape the light of the Fiat. Even more, I wished to surround all the acts of creatures like a crown, lining myself up over each human act to invest everything and every one with its light, so that one might be the word, one the heartbeat, divine will. But while my mind was wandering within it, my sweet Jesus, making himself seen, clasped me so very tightly in his arms. Then he placed his most holy face upon my heart, and breathed strongly into it. I am unable to say what I felt. And then he told me, "Daughter of my divine will, my fiat is light, nor could even a shadow or atom that is not light enter into it. Darkness does not find the way. It becomes lost before its endless light, and the soul, in order to enter my divine will, must place herself in the reflections of its light. That is to say, as she wants to do her acts in my will, she places herself in its reflections, that have the virtue of changing the acts of the soul into light. And my will performs a prodigy, as each of its rays invests, some her heartbeats, some her thoughts, some her words. In each of its rays, it contains the crown of all the acts of the creature. And since my fiat embraces everything and everyone, heaven and earth, it makes everyone touch, and gives to everyone all the acts of the creature done in it. If all could see the marvels of the living and operating in my will, they would see the most beautiful, enchanting, and enrapturing scene that does the greatest good and brings the kiss of life, of light, of glory." Then, with tender and moving voice, and with stronger emphasis of love, he added, "O divine will, how powerful you are! You alone are the transformer of the creature in God. O my will, you alone are the consumer of all evils, and the producer of all goods. O my will, you alone possess the enrapturing strength, and whoever lets herself be enraptured by you becomes light. Whoever lets herself be dominated by you is the most fortunate one in heaven and on earth. She is the most loved by God. She is the one who receives everything and gives everything." July 19th, 1928. How in creation 3 acts concurred on the part of God, and how 3 sacrificed wills are needed for the kingdom of the divine will. One who lives in it is celebrated by all and is the feast of all. I was doing my usual round in the divine volition, and as I arrived at the point when the celestial queen was conceived, had the use of reason, and made the heroic sacrifice of offering her will to her God, without ever wanting to know it, to live only of the will of God, I thought to myself, how I wish that my celestial mamma would take my will, unite it with hers, and give it as gift to the Supreme Majesty, so that I too would not know my will, to live only of the will of God. Then, while I was thinking of this, my beloved Jesus moved in my interior, and with a light more than lightning told me, "My daughter, in creation 3 acts concurred on the part of the Trinity, which were power, wisdom, and love. And all our works are always accompanied by these 3 acts. In fact, since our operating is perfect, They are executed with highest power, with infinite wisdom, with perfect love, communicating three immense goods to the work we are doing, as indeed we gave the great good of the intellect, memory, and will to man. Now, in order for the kingdom of my divine will to come, three wills are needed, sacrificed in holocaust to the divinity, that having no life of their own, would give place to mine to let it reign and dominate freely, so that it may take its royal place in all human acts, the place that befits it, because so it was established by us from the beginning of the creation of man, who, ungrateful, gave the place to his human will, and caused mine to lose that place. Before us, there is no greater sacrifice than a human will, that while having life, does not exercise it, in order to give free life to my fiat. This, however, to great profit for the soul, because she gives a will that is human, and receives a divine one. She gives a will that is finite and limited, and receives one that is infinite and without limit. Now, while Jesus was saying this, I thought to myself, the first one was certainly the Queen of Heaven, who made the heroic sacrifice of not giving life to her will. And the other two wills? Who can they be? And Jesus added, My daughter, and what about me? Do you want to put me aside? Don't you know that I had a human will that had not even one breath of life, surrendering the place to my divine will in everything? So I had it to keep it sacrificed, so that the divine will might extend the whole expanse of its kingdom in my human will. And have you forgotten that you keep your human will sacrificed, so that it may never have life? And that my divine will keeps it as footstool at its feet, so that I may extend my kingdom over it? Now, you must know that in between the will of the Celestial Mother and yours, there is my human will, which is first and sustains both, that they might be constant in the sacrifice of never giving life to the human volition, so that the kingdom of my divine will might extend over these three wills, to have the triple glory of our power, wisdom, and love, and the triple reparation of the three powers of man, which all three of them concurred in withdrawing from the great good of our divine will. And if the sovereign Queen of Heaven was engraced by virtue of the merits of the future Redeemer, you were engraced by virtue of the Redeemer already come. And since millennia are like one single point for me, from that time I thought about everything, and I sustained the three wills over which my eternal will was to triumph. And this is why I always say to you, be attentive, and know that you have two wills sustaining yours, that of the Celestial Mamma and that of your Jesus, to fortify the weakness of your will, so that it may endure remaining sacrificed for a cause so holy, and for the triumph of the kingdom of my fiat. Then, while my mind was making present the conception of the Sovereign Lady, I said to myself, Immaculate Queen, this little daughter of the divine will comes to prostrate herself at your feet. to celebrate your conception and to give you the honors of queen. And together with me I call the whole creation to surround you like a crown. The angels, the saints, the heavens, the stars, the sun, and everyone, to recognize you as our queen, to honor and love your height, and to declare ourselves your subjects. Don't you see, O celestial mother and queen, how all created things run to be around you to say to you, "We hail you, our queen." Finally, after so many centuries, we have been given our empress. The sun hails you as queen of light, the heavens as queen of immensity and of the stars, the wind as queen of empire, the sea as queen of purity, strength, and justice. The earth hails you as queen of flowers. All hail you in chorus. You are the welcome one, our queen. You will be our smile, our glory, our happiness. From now on, we will all hang upon your wishes. But while I was saying this, I thought to myself, certainly some of my usual nonsense, I am celebrating my celestial mamma, and she does not give a thought to celebrating the little daughter of the divine will. I would like no other than the feast of her keeping me on her lap like a little child, to feed me the air, the breath, the food, the life of the divine will. But while I was thinking of this and other things, my sweet Jesus moved in my interior and told me, "Little daughter of my will, one who lives in my divine fiat is celebrated by all, and is the feast of all. Do you want to know why you celebrate, from her very conception, the state of queen of my mamma? Because she began her life in the divine will, and the divine will makes present to you her glorious state of queen, and it makes you celebrate her with all created things, just as she was celebrated at her conception. The feasts begun in the fiat are perennial. They never end, and one who lives in it finds them present and celebrates along. And even though the little Queen of Heaven, from her very conception, perceived that all revered her, smiled at her, longed for her, and that she was the well-liked of all, yet she did not know from the beginning the mystery that she was to be my mother, of him whom she herself longed for, as she knew it when the angel announced it to her. However, she knew that her royalty, her empire, and the many shows of obsequies came to her because in her reigned my divine will. Now, you must know that as you celebrate the mamma and her sovereignty, the mamma celebrates the daughter, the newborn of that fiat, that she loved so much as to keep it as her life. And in you, she celebrates what you yourself do not know for now, but will know later. Don't you know that she longs for the little queens, which are the little daughters of my will, to make for them the feast that she receives? July 23rd, 1928. The soul who lives in the fiat is the luminous point in the world. How everything was created for the soul. Continuing in my usual abandonment in the supreme fiat, I wish to embrace everyone and everything, so that everything might become divine will. And my sweet Jesus, coming out from within my interior, told me, "My daughter, the soul in whom my will is present is the luminous point in the world. Just as a sun can be seen under the vault of the heavens that invests the earth with its rays, and penetrating everywhere with its life of light, embellishes, colors, fecundates the whole earth, so can another sun, more beautiful, more refulgent, be seen in that point of the world, that is, in the soul in whom my divine will reigns. And its rays extend and expand so much as to embrace everything and everyone. How beautiful it is to see from heaven these luminous points in the depth of the earth. It no longer seems earth, but heaven, because there is the sun of my fiat. Its rays embellish, fecundate, and scatter such variety of divine colors as to communicate the varieties of beauties of the Creator with its life of light. Wherever these luminous points are present, the current of evil is stopped. My justice itself feels disarmed by the strength of this light, and changes the scourges into grace. These points are the smile of the earth. Their light is herald and bearer of peace, of beauty, of sanctity, of life that never dies. They can be called the fortunate points of the earth, because in their midst there is the light that never dims, the life that always rises, while where these luminous points are not present, the earth is obscure, and if any good is done, it is like those little lights that have no rays, because the source of the light is missing in that good, and therefore it has no strength nor virtue to extend and to expand. And since the source is missing, they are subject to becoming extinguished, and the earth remains obscured, as though buried in thick darkness, because the human will is herald and bearer of evils, of disturbances, of disorder, and the like. So the soul in whom my will does not reign puffs out darkness, shadow, and restlessness. And if she does any good, it is a good invested with fog. Her air is always unhealthy, her fruits unripe, her beauty discolored. All the opposite for the soul in whom my will reigns. She is the true queen that dominates everything. She gives peace to all, does good to all, and is well liked by all. And while she does good to all, she has need of no one, because the source of my will that she possesses makes all goods arise within her. Then I was continuing my round in the divine volition to bring all created things to my Creator, heavens, sun, and everything, as profound adoration to my God, and to be able to say to him, "Heavens, stars, sun, sea, you gave me, and I give you everything back as the requital of my love." But while I was thinking of this, my sweet Jesus told me, "My daughter, yes, I created everything for you, and I gave you everything. For each thing I created, first I thought of giving it to you as a gift, and then I put it out. I gave you so many of these gifts that you have no place to keep them. And my love, in order not to keep you hampered, gave you the space in which to keep them, in such a way that, while you enjoy now one thing, now another, as you please, you are not cluttered up, because each thing has its place to remain at your disposal. Now, if you knew our contentment when we see our little daughter take her flight in our will, to bring to us heavens, stars, sun, and everything else, to requite us with the very gifts that we gave to her, we feel our own glory, our love, the repetition of our works, and knowing that if she had the power to make them, she would make them for us, in order to always excel in our love toward one who lives in our Fiat. We give her the merit, as if the creature had made the heavens for love of us, the sun, the sea, the wind, in sum, everything. We requite her as if she were maintaining the whole creation, to give us glory, and to tell us that she loves us. My will loves so much one who lives in it, that there is nothing it has done, or can do, in which it does not say to the soul, "Let us do it together," so as to be able to say, "What I have done for love of her, she has done for love of me." July 29th, 1928. Meaning of the blessing and of the sign of the cross. My days become more bitter and long because of the privation of my sweet Jesus. Hours are centuries. Days never end. And while I pray my usual rounds in the creation, I want and invite everyone to cry for he who, flying away from me, leaves me alone and abandoned in my hard martyrdom of living, as if I had no life, because he who formed my true life is no longer with me. And so in my bitterness, I call the sun to cry tears of light, to move Jesus to compassion, so that he would come back to his little exiled one. I call the wind to make tears of moans, of screams, and to deafen the hearing of Jesus with its mighty empire, so as to bend him to come back. I call the sea to my help, that it would convert all of its waters into tears, and murmuring tears and tumulting with its waves, it may make a tumult deep into his divine heart, so that he may quickly resolve to give me back his life, my all. But who can say all my nonsense? I sought help from all, so that they would make Jesus come back to me. But he would not come, and I would continue my round in his adorable will, and following all the acts he did when he was on this earth. I paused when Jesus was blessing the children, blessing his celestial mamma, blessing the crowds and other things. And I prayed Jesus to bless this little daughter of his, who so much needed it. And he, moving in my interior and raising his arm in the act of blessing me, told me, "My daughter, I bless you from the heart, in your soul and body. May my blessing be the confirmation of our likeness in you. My blessing confirms in you what the divinity did in the creation of man, that is, our likeness. You must know that during the course of my mortal life, in everything I did, I always blessed. It was the first act of creation that I called back upon creatures. And in order to confirm it, in blessing, I invoked the Father, the Word, and the Holy Spirit. The very sacraments are animated by these blessings and invocations. So, while calling the likeness to the Creator within souls, my blessing calls also the life of my divine will, that it may return, as in the beginning of creation, to reign in souls. Because my will alone has the virtue of painting in them vividly the likeness of He who created them, of making it grow, and of preserving it with the vivid divine colors. See, then, what blessing means. Confirmation of our creative work, because the work we do once is so filled with wisdom and with sublimity and beauty that we love to repeat it always. And if our blessing is nothing other than the longing of our heart to see our image restored in creatures, as well as the repetition of our confirmation of what we want to do, the sign of the cross that the Church teaches to the faithful is nothing other than impetrating our likeness on the part of creatures, and so, echoing our blessing, they repeat, "In the name of the Father, of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit." Therefore, without knowing it, the Church and all the faithful harmonize with the eternal Creator, and all want the same thing. God, by blessing and pronouncing the words Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, wants to give His likeness. Creatures impetrate it by making the sign of the cross, pronouncing the same words. You have reached the end of the Book of Heaven, Volume 24, Part 10. Fiat.